This
Planning and
conference
Zoning
will now be
meeting to
recorded.
order. If everyone will rise. We'll have an invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for our wonderful town. Help us to make good decisions and just do what's right by the people of this town. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. While we're having debate tonight, I will ask everyone if they would please speak directly into their microphones where Miss Sherry can get accurate statements. So first thing we got is agenda approval for March 1st, 2022.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to see if we could vote on adding an item to the agenda. I'd like to see if we could vote on a 3-month trial of moving to virtual packets for this committee. This go around, we've got 40 pages and
Yeah.
we're able to bring in laptops and tablets. Might be something to save a tree and save some town expenses.
Okay.
We don't have, there's no Wi-Fi in here.
You could download any of these documents.
Well, we can add it to, maybe add it to C on the discussion item.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. I'll let you, when we get there, I'll let you take charge. Do I have a motion to, yes?
I move to approve tonight's agenda as amended by Mr. Sansel.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. We have minutes approval, February 1st, 2022. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
does it matter if our names are spelled wrong? Is that important at all? I mean, is it something we need to correct or does it matter?
Talking about Lavinia?
Both of them, they're different in both places. And Melody's not even right, but
Well, it's right in one place.
no, it's not. That's not right either.
Okay.
There's a couple more things in that same place, if you got the melody.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what it will,
I would like to thank Carol Coleman
okay.
and Dusty.
Right.
Sure you got that?
I got it.
Okay.
Can I add one more?
Just call me. You guys get these packets on Friday, Saturday, whatever, just call me and let me know and I can fix all this stuff.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we should be doing that. I'll be
Well,
glad.
that's why you get it. Everybody can look at it and see something, let me know, and I can make changes
Yeah, she can amend it
prior
and
to
bring
the
it
next
back.
way you guys are wasting time.
Okay, sorry.
Any other changes to the minutes? With these changes being said, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, any other discussion on the minutes approval? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Motion carries. Discussion item A, discussion of proposed South Carolina Compassionate Care Act and possible changes proposed to the town zoning ordinance. Sabrina?
Yes, I've actually asked Chief Hoffman to come in and speak on this. I did attach the proposed bill and the proposed law for you. And if you'll look on page 56 of that proposal, section 44-53-2430A, I think I have it highlighted for you.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it does give, during the amendments, it did give all local government authority to prohibit medical cannabis establishments from operating in the jurisdiction. But I did, Chief Hoffman knows a lot more about this bill than I do, so I asked that he come in and speak on
Sure,
it tonight.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Planning Commission members, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to you tonight. I want to speak to you about a matter that I feel like is clear and present danger to public safety of our residents and our visitors. And that is this legislation, which is in front of you here today. In your packet, you may have seen also, I believe, with the letter.
Yes, it's in the beginning.
You should have found that letter dated January 27th, 2022, that was addressed to our senators who surprisingly are in support of this bill. And all of the chiefs and sheriffs in 15th Judicial Circuit signed on to this letter, urging them to stop this legislation from moving forward. To give you some background information on this, the way that this usually moves forward is the legalization of hemp production. So, the next stage, after the community is desensitized to that, the state's getting a little bit of money from it, is the introduction of medical marijuana legalization. It's ready to happen. And then inevitably, the next stage will be legalization of recreational marijuana. So, it's happened in many states. I think approximately 30 states now have various laws that allow for the sale and use and possession of various amounts of marijuana for medical or recreational use. At this time right now, we have a business in town that sells a variation, a slight, just one chemical change of THC. I think it's the Delta 8 dispensary is what it's called. Right here in town, if you haven't stopped by while you may be making some decisions on this, or thinking about it, please go in. That is a marijuana sales location that has set up a successful business model that is selling what appears to be marijuana in bud form, but it's just not exactly marijuana yet. This is a business model that is functioning within our town in hopes and preparation that we will legalize medical or recreational marijuana and be a functioning business ready to go day one. I'm not sure whether that's in the past, it's here now, I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, but I have concerns about it. I'll answer any questions you have. If this legislation passes, it'll be a moneymaker for the state. The legislation here that passes says that 85% of all money made will go straight into the state's general fund. There's none for law enforcement, except for a little bit that goes to SLED. There's none that's going to explain what we do with our $10,000 drug dog that will be useless because you can't untrain sense out of dogs. Every certified drug dog in this state will have to be retired if this legislation passes because dogs will be alerting on marijuana that will be legal to some extent. Now, from a common sense perspective, you may be thinking that you've read some articles talk about the medical benefits of THC from a medical point of view, that it alleviates certain things. And I'm not going to argue that. I'm not a doctor. Okay. But let me ask you this. If the chemical compound in THC can help people medically, which I never want to take away from anyone being able to get medical assistance that they need, why hasn't the FDA approved it for in that pill form? Did it for opium, didn't they? That worked out well, didn't it? Didn't all that. So that's a question that needs to be answered. This legislation will not allow these stores to sell marijuana in its plant form worse than that. It'll be sold in a liquid form, so it'll be vaporized. If you know anything about that, please research it. There will be no way to limit how much someone can take and to what percentage that vapor can be put into. Keep it out of children's hands. We can't keep the marijuana vapes out of kids' hands, and look at what it's done to our schools. Now it's affecting our children. And I think that we have an opportunity, you guys have an opportunity, we all have an opportunity as a community to intervene. There was enough pressure put on our legislators to add this amendment in. Hopefully our letter had something to do with it. I hope other jurisdictions send in letters too, where they said local municipalities can say they want this here. I hope that you'll find that and encourage our town council to support you in that decision. And this is not just Kenny's personal opinion, but I'm the chief of police, and I want to bring to you anything that I think could have a dramatic impact on our public safety. Fact check me on any of this. And I'll just use a few statistics from around the Colorado area, because Colorado kind of led the charge on some of it. I promise you, I do not believe the statistics. I just want to give you a few. In Colorado, the number of traffic fatalities where a driver tested positive for cannabinoids, Delta-9 or another metabolite, increased 140% from 2013 to 2019. Rates of hospitalization with marijuana-related billing codes rose prior to legalization, experienced a 100% increase during the era of medical marijuana legislation. This means people are overdosing on marijuana, on THC, because there's no way to control how much and for what power and percentage that liquid is going to be when it's vaporized and inhaled into the body. Number of calls to poison control, mentioning human marijuana exposure increased between 2013 and 2019. Over the past 10 years, Colorado's seen an increase in marijuana-related hospitalizations, emergency room visits. Our emergency rooms are already overrun. The hospitals are already overrun with COVID pandemic. This would be an additional problem that we're going to add on to that. Poison control calls, DUIs, fatal crashes where the drivers tested positive for cannabinoids. So this will be an added problem that we'll be adding to. We may not be able to stop it statewide, but we can take action here in Surfside Beach. We're a family beach, right? I believe strongly in that. So I hope that you take that into consideration. There's some really good studies out there. This one particular one through the National Criminal Justice Reference Service, which was sponsored by the Office of Justice Programs. It very clearly details the effects of marijuana. If you're interested, let me know. I'll be happy to email it to you. Won't read it to you here tonight. Homelessness increases when you have these types of businesses. Crime increases. Now, medical marijuana may be one thing and this liquid is available, but if you can't afford it, where are you going to do? You're going to break into a place and you're going to steal it. A lot of these businesses are cash operations. In states that have legalized this, have seen an increase in robberies, armed robberies of these locations, because they're cash operations that are loaded with cash. Black markets in these states where they've legalized it, because it won't be a problem anymore. It'll just be like cigarettes and alcohol, right? I'm not saying those are good vices either. They said it's not going to be a problem. Well, the black market increased for people wanting to get it who don't have. They may be legitimately at one point have a little back pain, they get a prescription, you'll get it, and then that runs out. And then you have to buy it from the dealer. So it increases addiction to this even more so. I think that my biggest concern is that this is a money grab. It will generate a lot of money for the state. But what's going to come back to us to help battle You can't test for marijuana on the side of the road when you make a DUI stop. If an officer stops someone who's clearly intoxicated, there is no testing available to be able to intervene in stops for our officers. It's very complicated. So if these accidents increase and somebody's just high, it'll be very difficult for us to get justice for the victims who are impacted by DUI accidents and fatalities. So I just wanted to take a minute, thank Sabrina for jumping on this when I brought it to her attention, and thank you for allowing me to just come up and just point it out and ask you, before you make a decision, again, maybe do some research on your own. There's a ton of people saying it's a great thing, and there's a ton of people saying it's a horrible thing. The dropout rates go up for our kids, DUI crashes, accidents, the inability to investigate it. It's really going to create a nightmare for us. And I assure you that shortly after the legislation for the Compassionate Care Act passes, recreational, right behind it, started coming down the pipes. Okay? So I would just ask that you please consider taking a stand on this in Certified Beach. And I'll tell you, there's money to be made here for the town as well. It would generate revenue for the town. Businesses would be here, sales tax, and the other things that could generate revenue. I don't know if we need it that bad. I don't think that we do. So I hope that you consider it. But if you have any questions for me, I just wanted to kind of give you a brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, and if I can't answer a question that you have, I'll get you the information that you get out to. Sure.
Any questions for Chief Hoffman? Scott?
Yeah, this is a pretty complex issue, I
Yes,
think,
sir.
especially these days.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions, but, answer whatever, however you decide, but
Yes.
is Delta 8 in South Carolina a legal substance?
So I think the Delta 8 and Delta 9 confused. One of them is actually marijuana. That is the actual substance.
I think Delta 8 is,
So this is the Delta 8 dispensary.
that's
So
what the sign says.
it's not illegal.
Okay.
Because it's not marijuana. So it doesn't have, it's not, it's not illegal.
Okay. Yet, my understanding is it still makes people high.
That, that may be true, and I don't know. I will check on that.
Okay. Is the concern that, it's a slippery slope? Is marijuana considered, or is the concern that it's a gateway drug, or that marijuana is actually the problem?
But
Okay.
there is a ton of studies that indicate that marijuana is a gateway drug to other drug uses, particularly moving into, there's been many links shown between marijuana use and opioid addiction.
Right.
Which we're dealing with. I mean, we're dealing with overdoses here in the town with opioids at a very alarming rate right now. Our fire department and police personnel are carrying Narcan a lot. So the concern is an issue as well, but also just the fact that some of this, these vaporized liquids, THC will be very high concentrations. And just like the vapes, if you're familiar with that, I mean, you can just sit there and continue to hit that vape and you're just pulling all of this nicotine at very high dangerous levels of nicotine. And that could fall in the hands of someone who doesn't have that type of level of resistance. It's very dangerous to someone. And my concern is that vaporization of the THC will have a very similar concern. So the use of it as well.
I have many more questions, but I'll spare if anybody else wants.
I'll be happy to answer your questions, or I'd be happy to meet with you individually and work with you to discuss it. Whatever you
Yeah,
would like.
I think we all probably did some research before, and it is interesting, at least some of the statistics. It's questionable whether, we talked about prohibition, and that didn't seem to be a good idea. I think hopefully we all agree that sobriety is the healthiest lifestyle and the best for society. And it's an interesting concept, and I wonder how keeping it illegal will not make it grow even more, the problem grow even more. You know, what the state can regulate it if it is legalized. I'm personally not a proponent of legalizing marijuana because I've seen it, you know, cause serious problems, same as alcoholism. So, but thank you so
I
much.
understand everything you're saying is really valid if it's regulated. What concerns me about the legislation is 85% of all money goes back to the general fund of the state, right? But they're going to break off a big chunk of it for addiction. And that's great, but we're going to create drug addicts to make money and then funnel just like 8% back into dealing with the addiction, but 85% of it disappears into the abyss of the state general fund. So I think that that just creates a lot of confusion for me. Are we really the intent to deregulate because it's not really that bad, or are we just looking at it?
Right.
Again, that's just my first.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Dustin?
All right. So my question would be, I see that Horry County, the police chief has not signed this. Is he a
He's
supporting?
out of town.
Okay, so he is supporting this.
Yeah, he's out of town at the time. That was, I think it was another chief that didn't sign on to it.
That was my worry because knowing if he wasn't going to support it and we have unincorporated areas here, short distance away, I don't really see how we could probably.
We got a follow-up email from Chief Crock from Myrtle Beach PD to coordinate this and get it moving. That they were just unavailable at the time of signing. I believe since this was done, they've signed it now.
Okay. My other question is, have you received any public input on it already, or?
I have not.
Okay.
Because it's really just, you know, it's just come to light here at the end of January, and we're kind of monitoring it, working with Sabrina to just kind of see how it moves through and whether it has any traction. So we haven't really brought this out entirely yet.
Okay.
I think there was a news piece that was done on it, but it hasn't really got a lot of attention yet because it comes up almost every year now and then it's shot down. But this year it looks like, especially now that we have some conservative senators that have signed on to it, it's got a different kind of traction.
Okay. Is there any plan to try to get our social media page or anything involved in that to try to get some information from our residents?
I'll be happy to do that. As you can see, I feel very strongly about it. And that's probably a good idea at some point to do that. And then maybe an inquiry to see if this group of law enforcement leaders maybe we could do some actual media about it too. But being such a complex and sensitive issue, have to be approached carefully. But I do think we should get it out on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand your side of it, coming from the law enforcement side of it, but also, I mean, I know that I think it's 37 states that already have legislated it. So, I mean, eventually it seems like every state's probably going to end up being there eventually.
Right.
So I would definitely want the feedback from the residents.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Work on that. So.
First, thank you, Chief, for the information. It's a bit of a devil's advocate, not that I particularly have a stance on it, but as I understand it, if it passes the House, it's got to happen by May, or at least it's got to be on the governor's desk by May, or it dies for this cycle this year. And from everything that I've read, it looks like there's, you know, greater than zero, probably closer to a 50-50 shot of this passing. Under the assumption that it does pass, there's a high likelihood that some municipality around us will allow a dispensary of sorts. So I think the way the current bill is written, for every 20 pharmacies, there's allowed one dispensary. So high likelihood Myrtle Beach may have one. And if they do, that presents the same challenges with the K9 and the no roadside tests. And you have those challenges, yet you have no town revenue from having a dispensary in town. So that that just, it's a consideration of what is Surfside Beach's police department's plans, regardless of whether the town allows it or not, for zoning purposes. It seems to be that if this passes, it's going to have a huge impact on the police department. Even if we have no dispensaries within 20 miles, it'll be around us. So I guess roundabout way of the question is, what can the town do regardless of allowing a dispensary or not? If this passes in the law, there will be marijuana in non-smokable form in this town legally that you'll have to deal with.
So I guess really my concern is we have a lot of vacant storefronts here on Surfside. And I think that it would be detrimental to the community to have one of those dispensaries, if they choose to open here, to open in this area. Now, if I were going to open a marijuana dispensary and I had these concerns about crime, robberies, theft, burglaries, I'm going to set up shop in a really safe community. So all of a sudden, we really have a double-edged sword, don't we? We work really hard to have a really safe community with very low crime, with a community that funds staff, police department for a small town. If I want to protect my money and my product, I'm coming here. That really is more, I know I can't do anything about traffic necessarily to stop it through speaking to this group. But I do hope that I can at least prevent perhaps the indirect criminal effect that could be related to it by making sure that we don't have a dispensary here. It's really my objective and asking you guys to consider this piece of legislation and take zoning action prior to us getting one.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Chief Hoffman. Really appreciate it. I don't like the idea of this town taking the approach that, oh, well, it's inevitable, so we'll just lie down and let it happen. I can see from reading papers in the news how political it is going to become. And I, for one, am going to be emailing you for a copy of that study. I think we need to take this more seriously rather than just kicking the can down the road and waiting to see what Murphy Beach does. That's all I got.
Mr. Chairman. Just a few things, and I just kind of want to talk out some thoughts with you real quick. And thank you for all that you've done and all that you're going to have to do in the future, because it's not like if this doesn't make it, it's going to go away. So to the highlighted section that Sabrina mentioned, it's, sorry, is this better, Sherry? A local government may prohibit medical cannabis establishments from operating in the jurisdiction. My understanding is that it's still illegal to cross state lines with this because not everyone's on board federal level, right? So you can't go to Colorado and bring it here, right? So my concern is that we say, no, we don't want the medical establishment, but you're still going to have agriculture. You're still going to have processing, you're still going to have distribution, you're still going to have warehousing. So the way I'm reading this is that this only gives me an out to not have the dispensary as it's going to be proposed. This isn't even what's going to make it to the final form. But my concern is what's going to stop us from having someone try and use maybe some of the off 17 corridor space to use for storage for a warehouse where you're selling to, or you're manufacturing, or you have equipment dealing with it or something like that. So to piggyback off what she said, I think it's a way stickier thing. I think it's going to end up being a bigger issue than just not having the dispensaries. But I guess with the police force, we already pretty much have to retrain dogs, right? I mean, that's going to be sooner than later.
Well, actually, we'll have to retire those dogs.
Or I'm sorry, I said retrain, but replace is what I meant to say.
If this passes, all indications are based on research I've done, we will have to when they can stop. I think we will have to have dogs that have never been trained for marijuana recognition. It's my understanding how that'll work, because there's just all kinds of issues that the dog will be alerting on potentially illegal drugs. Why we don't, train the dogs to smell.
And we can't. We can't make that move until this is a done deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. until that
Right, well,
happens.
because up until it's a done deal, we want to have those other dogs.
The dog that we have right now has only been in service for 2 years. We pay $10,000 for that dog.
What's the average lifespan for their service?
7 to 10 years.
7 to 10? Okay, cool. Now, do you think that you'd have to take on any additional staff, any additional law enforcement? Do you think that the, I guess, infrastructure of the town is sufficient to deal with whether or not we're on board with the dispensary? What other additional costs do you see us taking on in the next 5 to 10 years if this does eventually come down the pipeline?
Initially, I think that there's going to be a cost of training. Officers will have to have additional training beyond standardized field sobriety testing, where they can do alcohol testing. They'll have to go into a level of training called a drug recognition expert, where they can do additional roadside tests to determine, are these clues indicators of alcohol or marijuana?
Or marijuana, okay.
And then the other problem that arises is there's no breath test
Right.
for marijuana. So officers will be off the road for a much longer period of time as they take people to hospitals to have blood drawn, which is, we're talking a 4 to 6 hour ordeal right now to get that blood drawn. So we would be, hospitals in town, so if our officers come in contact with this, they're gone. They'll be at Waccamaw, they'll be in Conway, they'll be up at Grand Strand tied up. So we'll be missing law enforcement on the streets dealing with this. So the long-term impact is unknown, to answer your question. I think training is an initial concern.
Definitely
Staffing
training.
would be a secondary
Staffing.
concern. The town may be required to try to create sort of we're so small, we don't really have units of police, but
Sure,
a
yeah.
task force, a DUI task force, especially trained officers who can just focus on these things. So our patrol officers can continue to focus on patrolling the town to detect and deter crime.
Mhm. Okay.
So I think there will be an impact, but nothing in this legislation talks about giving back to law enforcement to support the changes that we'll have to make. I think that's kind of, a concern there. Now, they might take some of that 85% that's going in the general fund and say, well, we're going to direct this into the South Carolina Highway Patrol Department of Public Safety. But
Until it's done.
that still doesn't impact us. The troopers are busy in the unincorporated areas. We're expecting police on that.
Mhm. I gotcha. And then, well, one last question
Yes, sir.
is, we touched on the county areas that surround us and then kind of some of the other municipalities and things like that. I guess talk to me a little bit about the E-District and Surfside Drive and the 17 corridor, right? Because this is where most of these people are going to be, right? So I'm assuming if someone's at home in the rental band, there's the threat of overdosing, but they're not driving a car. They're not driving a vehicle. They're not in a public space. Tell me a little bit about those areas. How do you see those areas being impacted? Specifically kind of the 17 corridor, Surfside Drive into the E-District.
Related to this legislation.
If this were to pass, what do you see? I mean, I understand the officers being out more, but do you think that you're going to have to increase patrolling? Do you think that we're going to have infrastructure, to have something a little bit more accommodating to the patrolling and things like that?
I think that the impact on the Highway 17 corridor will be that, I believe that's where the establishments will set up.
Sure.
You've got to have a green sign out where somebody can see it
Mhm.
for that. So I think that will, if we only have one, like Mr. Samples was saying, and hopefully we, have you guys traveled to Colorado? You've seen it, right? Every corner, bang, 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 bang. So if that were to become the case, I think we would have it. Well, the traffic will increase. People coming, people will be driving from outside the community. If we got a lot of ifs here, if we got a dispensary in this town, people will be coming from outside our community to come into our community to buy this. Will they use it? I don't know. Will they be down in the rental district? That I'm not sure of either. I'm not sure exactly what the impact will be in our residential area. And I don't know, I will tell you that, in my opinion, we're going to have to police E-District and the pier area very strategically
Mhm.
when that pier opens. How much impact marijuana use or medical marijuana will have on it, and I'll try to limit my conversation to medical marijuana, because that's all we're talking about right now, although I believe the next phase will be coming. I don't know that it'll have much impact on the E-District or the pier area as far as the medical marijuana piece of it, but it will, recreational, becomes back here.
Sure.
So I don't know that there'll be a great impact on what we need to do immediately from a staffing point of view or police funding and that, because we don't really know until we kind of see it.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm not holding you to.
Yeah. So I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you did. That helps. And then, no, I'm good. Because I really just want to get on record how expensive this could end up becoming regardless of the decision. And we don't necessarily even have to have the dispensary here to incur the costs.
Right.
And this needs to be considered. It's going to impact everything going forward.
And
So.
there's a lot of conflicting studies, and I read both sides of it. Of course, I try to stay away from like change.org, because everything they're going to say is from marijuana. And I try to stay away from any just personal biased opinions about it. And I really try to dig into these NIJ studies and things that are done by government, but this is a very political topic. So there's not a tremendous amount of really solid data, but any of the studies that I've read, other than income, I haven't seen anything positive that comes out of this, particularly when we get to the recreational part. Now, arrests for marijuana, we're way down. And because you can't charge for it unless you have more than an ounce. So as long as everybody's got less than an ounce, they're okay. But I personally have traveled to areas, in Colorado and other areas. I don't like what I see when I'm there. So I just don't know. I don't. That brought up too. We need to get the community's input on this. Is everybody okay with this? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Maybe it's just me being old fashioned and want to keep this a small town where we don't have those kind of problems. But the long-term impact, you're 100% correct. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost taxpayers to be able to try to protect this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Hoffman, so when we do drug stops or something like that, I mean, do you keep that specifically to marijuana currently? Do you have like a record of how many marijuana stops we have?
I could
Or
get that
arrest.
data for you. We do track, that, but our drug interdiction is across the board of what various different types of drugs. And, we've kind of over time gotten to where arrests for marijuana are rare unless it's a large amount of possession and intent to distribute. Quite frequently, officers will issue a summons for that rather than a arrest for that. That's already part of some of the desensitization of what's going on with this. Because, in the past, marijuana went to jail. But COVID and everything else going on too, and trying not to keep our jails overloaded. And the sort of normalizing of this, a lot of times we'll just issue a citation, but the other drugs are really a much harder drug that marijuana may be able to do it. So, thank you. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
It is important, everything we've discussed, but within our purview, within our power of what we can do,
Mhm.
all we're able to do is to prohibit maybe zoning and establishment.
Yes, sir.
Is that pretty much our purview? Is that what we can do to prevent maybe some of this?
And Sabrina may be able to kind of go into a little bit more what she's hoping that you guys can do, because I don't have technical knowledge of the wizardry you guys can do to save the town. But my hope is that the town will take a stand and say, we might not be able to stop this from happening, but we want to. That's what I hope that you.
Thank you.
I just have one small thing, Joe, on top of what Michael had to say in this highlighted area of the legislation
Yes, ma'am.
where it talks about the local government may establish blah, blah, blah of a medical cannabis establishment. Is there anything your police chief's group can do with whoever you're talking to in Columbia to expand that. I don't know exactly what in this legislation the word establishment means, but I certainly would like to see it broadened to mean more than just the dispensary.
What I will do is go back through the definitions part of here and see if they define establishments.
Yeah, I should have done that and I didn't.
I should have too. I see the word establishment in here a couple times. I'll do a keyword search on this.
Yeah, does that mean storage place too? Yeah,
Establishment may cover everything that we were talking about.
it may, but if it doesn't, it
Storage,
should.
Yeah, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I'll see what I can come up with. I'll make a note here to let you know about that. Any other questions I can answer?
You referred to policing on the pier, with no drugs involved, that's still going to be a challenge. I mean, this just makes it even more.
Yes, sir, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. God, yeah, you hit on the wizardry. I've never heard us call it wizardry up here, but,
Gotta keep it interesting.
yeah.
Thank you.
I will say, just from my experience in Surfside Beach, taking the lead is not something that we tend to shy away from. And I think that's what we got to do. I don't really care what Conway does or Myrtle Beach does. We don't represent those people. We represent the people of Surfside Beach. So taking the lead is what, if we choose, that's what we got to do. I mean, it wasn't real popular years ago when we enacted the smoking ban, but we took the lead.
That's right.
What did everybody else do?
Oh,
So,
now it's the standard.
yeah, I mean, you hit on it too. I mean, we either got to be the family beach or take the name off the sign. I'm with you. I'm old school on this. If we can stop it in its tracks, I don't even want to go to the rezoning and put them in certain places. And I mean, now we got another seaboard. That is way too complicated. Too much, then you got to be patrolling a certain district. And I'm for, as this amendment says, we're within our rights to say we don't want it in Surfside Beach. So that's my opinion. So.
I think we're okay on that definition of establishment. I found it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
I knew you would.
It says a medical cannabis establishment means a cultivation center, therapeutic cannabis pharmacy, transporter, independent testing laboratory, or processing facility, blah, 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 blah. We're probably good.
And Mr. Chairman, too, if I could just touch on something, although it's
Sure.
quasi-related to this. I agree with you about the policing needs for our pier. Up here, when it's done, it's going to be iconic. It's going to be important to the town's success when it moves to the future. And I'm aware of that and committed. At the present time, I'm taking steps to prepare to reorganize how we police the waterfront area moving forward to provide more thorough coverage 24/7, 365 down there. Because I think that it will be a year-round destination. And as the town seems to be committed to the E-District, as it continues to grow, if it's going to require a special kind of policing down there, to keep it under control, and I'm committed to that, monitoring that as well. At the present time, I am rewriting Chapter 8, which is our municipal miscellaneous laws and ordinances, our criminal piece in Chapter 8. And I have submitted a revised Chapter 8 for an upcoming workshop for council to consider. And in there, I have added some ordinances that will specifically help with that, loitering and prowling, which we don't have right now, which could be a problem down there. I'd already added your meeting in public, other things that are going to be associated with a sort of where there's a lot of alcohol that's going on. and panhandling and aggressive panhandling, and some other things that could be drawn into that as well, to make sure that we're in front of it, not responding to it. So you'll see some of that here in the next couple of weeks coming out as well. Through our budgeting process.
Good.
I appreciate you bringing that up, and I want to let you know, to being in front of it.
Well, I appreciate you being proactive. Thank you.
Thank you
Any
very
other
much for your
questions?
time.
Everybody good?
I really appreciate it.
Maybe, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this might be for Sabrina. What specifically would this group be? What are our options? What will we be voting for, against?
Well, what we'd like to do is at the next planning commission, which is next month, we'd like to go ahead and advertise this month for the public hearing. And we'll put it on Facebook and in the newspaper and everywhere else. And we're going to ask at the next meeting that it be added to the zoning ordinance to say it's prohibited in the town of Surfside Beach. And then you make your recommendations to council. Mhm.
If I could just add one more thing. We came across something similar with a different business type where we added it as an adjunct to existing businesses, which I thought was a very, very sensible kind of fail-safe. And if for whatever reason that doesn't make it to the final draft of this and we lose that ability,
Mhm.
I think that that's a good plan B. And what I'd like to do is try and define those like businesses that they talked about in the highlighted section. And we start approaching the like businesses similar so that they're all treated the same. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
if we can get, maybe help us define what those like businesses are, so that we could start saying, go find a professional service to be an adjunct of, and, maybe have some space requirements and things of that nature so that they're all being treated the same. But I definitely think we need to be thinking, here's plan A, but here's also plan B. Because I think we have a clear goal in mind. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. So that'll come by.
Next month
April
for a
15th.
public hearing.
Okay. Good. Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. B, we will continue to discuss Surfside Beach comprehensive plan. I think we left off moving into basically economic development element.
Mr. Chair, if I could just make one comment. Last month when we were talking about the population element, there was a question on how many lots were left in the town
Yeah,
that were open.
yeah.
I actually worked with Diana King, our finance director, and she gave me what she had from Horry County from June of last year. So what I did was I used those numbers. I went through and removed any permit that we had issued between that time and now. And we actually now have 70 commercial properties. The problem is those commercial properties, some of them are too small to be built on. And we have 242 residential properties left. 242, excuse me.
So is that vacant lots or?
Those are vacant lots, yes. We did, while we were going through, we found several that were not included in this number that had removed one home and split the lots. And we're going to have a lot of that anyway. But currently we have 242 residential lots that are vacant.
And are all those lots buildable, do we know?
The 242 residential are, yes. The 70 commercial, there's at least a handful that are not buildable at all. We're trying to get a firm number for you, but we hadn't had that. We don't have that yet, but hopefully I'll have it by the next meeting. So you'll have that. And I actually have copies if anybody wants to kind of look at them. It's got the tax map numbers and whether it's residential or commercial.
Is there any way we can get that in the map with shaded?
We actually have sent off for new zoning maps and parcel maps. Once that comes in, we can give you that. The zoning map that's online now is not accurate. It's outdated. So as soon as we get that, I'll be glad to give everyone those.
Well, good. We appreciate that because I think we went from 50 to 300. So good information. Thank you.
Can I just say one thing before we begin?
Yeah, sure.
I may be the only one that got all wrapped around the axle, but I picked up my nice comb binding copy of what I thought was the comp plan. And it's dated August of 2013, and it's not the right one. Would everybody please be sure they have the version that was approved on December 10th, 2013? I may not be the only one who's got an older version. That public hearing version is not what we wound up with. And I'm a little concerned that council members, some of them have been on council a while, may have better check their dates too. If we aren't all on the same page, we're gonna have a disaster.
Don't have.
Right in the front. Turn that over.
Thank you very much.
Should be on the first page.
12/10/2013.
You're good.
Right. Good.
I think the comb binding copies that are the ones that are dangerous.
All right. So we're good. All right. Here we go. Economic development element. I guess we're starting on page 16. Reading through all of this, obviously, it's kind of obvious that our biggest asset is east of us, called the Atlantic Ocean. So, I was looking at some of these labor numbers, and obviously we don't have a school district, we don't have a hospital. Horry County School District, since 2010 has grown by about 23%. Hospitals have grown probably 28% from what I could tell. I guess my point being, Surfside Beach is basically a tourist destination outside of being a wonderful place to live. So, we look here that Grand Strand Regional, 1,200, Conway Hospital, 1,150, Coastal Carolina University, we had 1,157. I think they're pushing about 1,400. So, our biggest employer at the time is the town of Surfside Beach, year round. I mean, you have Krabby Mike's and you have the water park that serves during the summertime, but the town having, excluding council, about 80 employees, that's what we got. So I think we had a lot of these. It's interesting information, but it's not really relative to where we live. So, the median household income comparisons, good information.
Looks like Surfside Beach went up. I don't know if everybody else did.
Yeah.
Per capita, it looks like it went up about 20%.
Yeah, I mean, and that obviously not having big industry, not having hospitals, not having, it's a challenge for families to move to Surfside Beach because housing is very expensive. It's not cheap to live in Surfside Beach. So, we look at a lot of these numbers and people are retired.
It's retirees.
Yeah, so I don't discredit any of this information, not saying it's not true, but
Not relevant.
yeah, I mean, it was nice to read, but it wasn't, really didn't have any whole lot to do with where we live and the challenges that we have. So, you know, the medium income, obviously, Pawleys Island, 96,000, Surfside Beach, 45,000. Okay. Briarcliff Acres, 108, Atlantic Beach, 23, Garden City, 35. Okay.
We all pretty much know this in a general sense, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so is, of these first, I guess, 4 or 5 pages, is there anything that sticks out to anybody that might be kind of relative to our comp plan that would sway us to be going a different direction? Or I read it several times and I was trying to figure out a way to incorporate, but I don't know.
Yeah, so as I look through it, it's 10-year-old data. Okay,
Yeah.
the world's changed
Yeah.
since then. Maybe more what stuck out to me, what was not included in here that we should consider moving forward, right there. For the economic section of the comp plan, there's not a lot of talk about basic economics. So there's an opportunity to inject, discussions around financial targets, debt limits or ratio or CapEx, just some general municipal guidelines to operate under. That I think would help council when they're thinking of big decisions, purchases or the like. There was a lot of, so related to the goals and implementation activities, and it's similar to the theme last month. These are, very nebulous statements around attract younger people, bring in more tourists, and maximize revenue, right? So like when you ring this out to try to get something to do, it's right, like, super, right? Let's do that. It's less than tangible. I ripped out all of the initiatives in here because they're buried in 170 pages, and not that condensing something down to 16 pages helps much, but if you, let me take one, pass it down. Sorry, I'm giving out more paper here when I'm asking for us not to use paper, but that is it's 15 pages of 360 initiatives that are in 170 pages. I think that on page 2 in the bold at the top, it starts with the economic element, which is for tonight. And there's 25. It starts at number 25 and goes through 50 on the following page. They're the specific, they're the verbatim, no edits, what was suggested 10 years ago for this town to do. And knowing that the data, instead of talking about 10-year-old data, maybe when we hire the consultant, that'll be updated, but we could use our time looking through the recommendations that were made 10 years ago and seeing if they're still relevant, if they were done, if it's still relevant, what's the priority of them, and what are some things early on prior to a consultant coming in that we might want to add in here now. That might be a fruitful way to spend time. So I don't mean to steamroll any agenda here, but I was trying to look through the 10-year-old data and I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell's our average income 10 years ago have to do with what we want to do today, right? So it's a little difficult to.
So you read the same thing I did.
Yeah.
I can tell you what the first thing I'm going to do with this list of Alex is thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go
It's really
through
good.
and I'm going to look at the verbs. How many of those verbs support,
Yeah.
continue to market, aim to, we've got to get a lot more specific than that. Improve, that's way too nebulous.
So I'll get all of you a soft copy of this too, so you can slice it up how you deem fit. But as I was doing this and I looked through it when it was done, it was a whole lot easier to digest just activities that were suggested rather than like fishing through pages to pull them out. So at the expense of hijacking an agenda, one approach subject to any veto is maybe just walk through the suggestions that were made in the comprehensive plan, starting at number 25.
Sure.
And then maybe we just have, for those that warrant it, just have a discussion, who likes it, dislikes it. I don't even know on half of these if any action took place over the last 10 years.
Well, it makes it a lot easier turning these pages.
Sorry about the font.
You could.
Some of them are so non-specific, there was no action. Continue to market, investigate.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we'll start on 25, participate in programs and initiatives sponsored by regional economic development agencies such as the Northeast Strategic Alliance. I know there was a meeting held probably, Sabrina might have, probably 4 or 5 years ago
With Sandy Davis.
in Columbia. This was
Oh, yeah.
actually in
Mhm.
Columbia, and trying to get Surfside Beach from a commercial standpoint, some exposure when new businesses came to Columbia or went to the State House, said, hey, we're interested in coming to Surfside. We're coming to South Carolina. There was no data in their system for Surfside Beach. 0. People say, well, why don't we, well, we're way behind, we're behind the curve. This really just started 4 years ago. Don't hold me to that, but that's about so we went back then and started breaking out the commercial properties, the size of the commercial properties, how they were all zoned. And that is now in Columbia. So when a new company wants to comes to Horry County or wants to come to the beach, our information is finally in there. So,
I'd love to see that.
yeah. So I think that'll answer kind of part of 1A. And now we're in talks with Sandy,
Davis,
with the regional,
economic development, I can't think of it.
yeah, regional
Yeah.
economic development. Had a meeting with her last week. Actually got another meeting on the 16th to discuss, how does Surfside Beach fit in the plan, the long-term plan, or what can we do to provide information for them to market, as Chief said, a lot of these storefronts that are vacant. So,
No, Coastal Carolina does a lot of Myrtle Beach's research and stuff for their economic development. So I know they have a program and stuff. I'm not sure if we tied up with them any, but I'm sure they got a lot of data.
yeah.
Would the Regional Economic Development Group replace the Northeast Strategic Alliance? I looked them up. They're like, Lawrence, and some
I'll be honest with
business
you.
group.
I read it and I don't know who it is.
They look nice.
Yeah, we've only dealt with Sandy Davis
Yeah.
the entire time I've been here.
So that'd be a likely strike.
Right,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, and these names and stuff will change over time. Again, you mentioned 10-year-old data. And I don't think Sandy's been with the regional group for 5-ish
As long
years.
as, well, she was
10
she was
years?
actually, yeah, I don't
But-
think any longer than 10 years.
But definitely not since this would
No.
have been.
No.
It's a fairly young group, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that there's also, just to piggyback off what you said, I think there's also a push to rebrand the whole coast as the beach. So, they're redoing murals, they're redoing the advertisements, they're redoing the logos, because I think we're not the only municipality that cried foul for this. And I think that's the goal. And that's kind of the answer is, instead of saying, come to Myrtle Beach, it's come to the beach, which is more of a county push. So, and it's going to be encompassing the full coast. So I think that there's a lot of stuff, countywide that we could really just kind of hook up our cart to and ride out as far as that goes.
So I've got the beach marketing, CCU research, regional economic development. And nothing
Yeah, I mean,
for-
because we have a tie with Coastal Carolina with Sharon Liebens.
Libas.
Yeah, Libas does the stormwater for us.
Right.
So you kind of have that connection. All right. 1B, support regional efforts to attract employers in business sectors that offer higher paying jobs, typically higher than the accommodations and entertainment employment sectors. Good luck with that.
These are regional issues. They're not
Yeah.
town issues.
Right, right. All right, we'll move on from that.
Just
Support effort.
for my notes.
I
and
didn't
I'll-
mean to
I'll get-
shut you down.
This is generally, that one's considered a low priority. I don't know how to rank them.
I don't know
high to
how,
low.
I don't know what the strategy would be, because accommodations and entertainment restaurants are our biggest employers.
Yeah.
And should be.
Yeah.
I mean, the value of this area.
It is what it is.
We need to accept who we are and work on it.
Yeah, improve on what we have.
Should we strike things? Should we prioritize things? Are we going through these to eliminate or to
I
add?
think Alex is making notes now as we go to
Yeah,
what our, each line item that we discussed, what's important.
Yeah, this is, nothing's gonna be cemented in, just
No, I
again,
think this is
general
balance, yeah.
temperature.
Uh,
Like if we're all like, this one's kind of useless,
Yeah.
then I'll reflect that, but any of them could be
Right.
surfaced again for conversation.
So Sabrina, how does what we're talking about now, how, I mean, once we have the person that's going to be hired to help us with the comprehensive plan, how does this all feed into what we will do with that person?
Well, I mean, if we're gonna, if you look at the goals and objectives that they did 10 years ago, and they're still relevant now, and it was not ever accomplished, he or she can add that to the new comp plan.
Okay.
We need to strike the unrealistic. or the vague
Exactly.
ones.
Yeah, very vague. Yeah, that'd be great.
Do you know if we're required to have these, I wrote like county or environment kind of goals, stuff that the county can shoot for I-73, but I-73 is not going to dump into Surfside, probably. But it's not done until it's done. But do you know if we have to have some of these goals for, or can we be more specific in our 2 square miles? Because like, we're not building a call center with 1,000 employees in Surfside Beach.
Right, and you can be more specific to Surfside Beach.
Strike some of this stuff out.
Absolutely. A lot of it doesn't apply here. It's kind of like you said, the surrounding areas. The goals for the new comp plan, I would hope that the consultant's going to get more specific to Surfside Beach, because we talked about that last time. It's a lot of county and region, but we need to look at Surfside.
I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. We have a county that'll do their own plan that should
That's right,
include county stuff, right?
That's exactly right.
Well, you know, just like Myrtle Beach, they were very specific to Myrtle Beach, not the regional. And
In
I
their
think
new
that,
plan.
and I think that's what we've got to do. Here's what's important for Surfside Beach, because Myrtle Beach had a 300-page comp plan. The new one is 100.
Mhm.
For every page that's money. So I think it's very important that we give the information to the consultant, what's important to us. Now, some of this stuff you gotta have, I understand that,
Right.
but some of this stuff it's just,
Yeah, and what I would love to do is once we get the RFP, it's supposed to be advertised, I think, next week. And then when we get it back, once the consultant is chosen, I'd like for that consultant to come here before they even start the process and hear what you like.
no doubt.
And then, of course, they can tell you what's required, which most of us know, but they can tell you what's required and what you can do, what you can't do. There's some areas that we really do need to look at Horry County because it does affect us. But not as often and as wide range as this is. So, yes. As soon as we choose them, we'd actually ask them to come in front of the planning commission and discuss it before they even start.
Good idea.
So just,
I agree.
It's a bid process. So it would go to
Lowest-
council.
lowest bid, that's it.
And as long as they meet the criteria that's set forth, which will be in the RFP. And of course, if it's a higher cost, it'll go to council. But it'll all go to the town administrator first. Mhm.
So I got a question. So around the name of the comprehensive plan, is there any way that we could rename that, or does it have to be named that? Because I know when I was looking at the surrounding areas comp plans, they have like a drive of Imagine 2020 or whatever, 2040, I believe it was.
Oh, yeah, no, you can come up with your own. Yeah, exactly. Conway has their very own, Myrtle Beach has their own. That way you know it's them, and that's what they want to do.
And I
It's
think-
more like branding.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan seems really bland to me. And I think if we could really rename it and get it out to our residents, they'll take more initiative to be a part of it.
I agree.
Good. 1C, support efforts to improve connectivity of the Grand Strand to other markets, I-73 and the Southern Evacuation Lifeline. Well, we've been talking about both of those we've been talking about the Southern Evacuation route for almost 20 years now.
Mhm.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
anybody
yeah,
cares whether Surfside Beach supports it or not.
Yeah, well, that's what they're waiting on, I'm sure, is our stamp of approval.
Same with the interstate.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. Economic Development Goal 2, distinguish Surfside Beach from surrounding coastal communities in the Grand Strand and greater Southeast region, thus establishing a unique identity for the town.
So that was the title of the goal, and the
Yeah.
next 28 through 34 are the
Yeah,
activities.
yeah, continue to market town of Surfside Beach as family beach. You know, I
That
think
doesn't
it's-
say anything.
Yeah, I think that's a given.
I think the second one, utilizing this marketing approach
I
to
mean,
attract younger
I will
families is
say-
unrealistic.
We need to put our money where our mouth is when it comes to the family beach.
So when Surfside redid the vision, didn't they include more than the family beach? Was it something after that as well?
Yeah, it was.
The
Do
family
you know
beach?
that, Sherry, for the entire South Carolina? Do you know and I apologize, I wasn't
The
here
number
during
one
that, but I did.
destination,
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yes. Is
Yeah.
that something we probably should add in there? I mean, if that is their vision.
And that was council's vision, so.
You know,
I
that
agree.
is so specifically tourism related. I think it leaves out a good part of the town. We're talking, that talks about destination, and that's nice, but that's not all we are. We're residential too.
Well, I know the business committee has had a domain name for 8 years, Discover Surfside Beach. I mean, I see all these other places now have got Discover this. Well, we've had that domain name. We had a member of our business committee pays $25 every year, and we still have Discover Surfside Beach.
So is that something in the next 10 years that we're going to be pushing forward? So, I mean, I know we need to align with the town with their vision that they voted in, and that's what the direction they want to go. So regardless if it were just for residents as well, I mean, it's the vision of the town already. So I believe it should capture exactly what the town's vision would be.
I think we're talking two different goals here, right? So we got the family beach and then we got the tourism beach. I'm not saying they can't blend, kind of like Venn diagram, and have some overlap here, but I like having continue to market Surfside as the family beach. We can have riders on different events, different objectives, different endeavors where it makes sense. You know, we want to be tourism driven in the E district. We want to be the family beach for the fall festival. We want to be, et cetera, or what we talked about with the other discussion item tonight. We don't need the number one tourist destination for that. So I like that this kind of brings everyone back to the same three words, the family beach. You know, it's short, it's sweet, it could be tacked on, it could be put on in front of someone without them getting bogged down in the verbiage. of, this is a really long thing of what I want to be. I think having colon and here's how this objective is the family beach, blah, blah, blah is fine. I personally like that because it kind of brings everything back to this one root of we're residential. We don't want these businesses, prolific in our community. We don't want this image. We don't, you know what I'm saying? So personally, I kind of like, that is the one vague one I actually do like because I feel like it kind of regrounds the rest of this stuff. If that's the goal. If the goal changes, then that's fine. But I like that goal. And that's the goal that attracted me to Surfside Beach.
Well, the thing is, as we work our way down, it highlights some of those points that you're talking about. Next one, utilize this marketing approach to attract younger families and professionals to permanently relocate to Surfside Beach. Develop ongoing programming and annual events that highlight the town's family beach appeal.
We're doing that.
So yeah, those are aimed to make Surfside Beach one of the most pedestrian and bicyclist friendly beach communities in South Carolina.
I thought, doesn't that tie to the Greenway,
Yeah, we missed.
which I believe council shot down a good few years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why are we don't need to be talking about things that council already killed.
So are we
That may
still
be
not
coming
part of
back.
the Greenway?
Full circle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Invent it again. Yeah.
Are we not a part of the Greenway? Is that what you're saying?
No,
Because I mean, when I look at the Greenway map, it still goes through Surfside.
there's no designated bike path.
No.
Right, that's exactly right.
So but you can still go through. You have to just go on lawns and over driveways.
But
You can do it.
But
I'm
I
just
was
saying-
told last month that that's going to be brought back up to the new council for consideration with a different route. Because I think the route before, there were several presented and they all went through neighborhoods, which of course council had some issues with. There was one that went down Ocean Boulevard and that went up Melanie on one, went down Hollywood on one.
That's the one
It was
out
all over. So now, and I'm not sure of the route, but I was told that it may be actually 17 and add a bike path. But
Oh, my God.
that was just,
I recently pulled up the map on.
but again, I don't know that. I'm just,
I
it is
recently,
going to go back to council.
I recently pulled up the map on the Greenway site itself, and it actually shows going straight through Ocean Boulevard all the way down and cutting back up at Melody, I believe, or somewhere around there.
Mhm.
I
That
think
was
that's
the-
actually in the plan. They actually have a picture of it, but
Yeah, and I think that's the one that got shut down from council.
so the pedestrian part of this, I think it's relevant. We're still adding
Sure.
sidewalks. It's regular systematic approach to that.
Mhm.
And I guess the bicyclist part is TBD.
So for the future, this would be a high priority, right?
If we're planning to,
I mean,
If that's where we want to
we're
go.
the family beach town. I mean, if bike paths are almost as family as apple pie.
There's a
Well,
lot of apple pie in this thing already.
well, I think the problem with these, there were several different paths that were brought to council. And it was more it's not that they didn't want it. It was more a safety aspect. When they brought it down Ocean Boulevard, it was going through some of the most densely, especially during the summer, people backing in and out of driveways, and this bike path was going to cross out 17. It wasn't that we didn't want it. It was just a safety issue. And the pattern initially, like you talked about, was going to try to follow our sidewalk design. So you didn't really have to pour a whole new bike path. You just piggybacked on, say, the sidewalk all the way down Hollywood. Just extend it maybe 2 feet or so. So it was more about safety.
Unless you live on Hollywood.
Well, I mean, that was the whole deal with the
Yeah.
sidewalks to begin with. Everybody wanted a sidewalk on their street. They just didn't want it on their
On the
side.
other side.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, we'd send out flyers. You want a sidewalk? Absolutely. but
But not on our side.
18 wanted it on that side and 17 wanted it on that side. So,
So
see, I would love, I know at one time, we were building a sidewalk every year. Every year, we were trying to connect basically Melody to 17. And that's to me, I would love to resurrect building sidewalks because we did them, majority of them we did in-house during the wintertime. We had a lady at the time, Jan Lewis, was very good at writing grants. Most of these sidewalks that you see, we didn't pay hardly anything for them. They were 80-20 matches. Our guys installed them. I would love from that pedestrian continue to build sidewalks.
When you think of the
Aggressive.
pier and that pedestrian traffic there. So
Yeah.
my signal for being a high priority is amount of energy and conversation on the topic of that one. That's 5 people weigh in, so I'll put that one as a high priority
Yeah,
on the new plan.
it says, any more comments on that before I move on?
Yeah, can we try and maybe give a rough estimate for, do we want this done in the first 2 years, 5 years, 10 years type deal? I think that would be also help make this a little more actionable for council.
And
Well,
that's
I think that's-
And I think that's
I think that's
achievable.
what we had kind of talked about a little bit last month is having, okay, 2013, here's our goals. I mean, 2023, 2024, 2025, have goals each year to what we, high priority in a 5-year or 8-year, whatever. So yeah, absolutely.
And keep in mind, you're going to add a lot more goals when you have the public hearings and the workshops, because they actually have it entertained where they're going to ask the public what their goals are, and then we're going to add those. And like you're doing now, they'll ask how many, they'll give everybody little stickers usually, and the whole community that's here will put stickers on what they feel like is the top priority. So this is going to change.
Sure.
Yes, and it'll be added too. But once the consultant gets here, then the priority starts as to what year you want, how many years you want to give them, that type thing.
We've also got a priority investment element at the end of this.
Right. That's exactly right.
I need to see more of the big picture before I can say which I want to come first. And then maybe-
No, I just
Oh,
want to be thinking about it.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I said, I would need to see more of the big picture before I'd be able to address, well, that needs to come before that. I don't think we're there yet.
No.
But
think
yes,
we're
we
not.
do need to be specific, I believe.
I think we're getting closer.
Yes.
Improve the connectivity between the east and west side of Highway 17 to enhance safety and accessibility to nearby commercial retail areas.
Can the town touch anything on the roadway here? Can we put in a? we can't put in
Without
a stop
state
light, right?
approval.
Right. That's the DOT.
Yeah.
State road.
That's almost, well, unless we buy a bridge.
You know, that was funny. That was proposed
proposed.
for years ago. It was proposed. I mean, because if you go down, was it 77 in Columbia? There's a bridge built over the interstate that connects Benedict College and Allen, I believe. So it was kind of far-fetched, but it was.
But it was proposed.
Yeah. So, all right, then the next one, market the East Coast Greenway as a local attraction for the community. We kind of talked about that. That's invest in projects and initiatives via accommodation, tax revenue, and other funding sources to enhance pedestrian access and improve the appearance of Surfside Drive, Ocean Boulevard, and Highway 17.
Some of these can be consolidated, can't they?
Yeah, so my 2 cents on the first half of this goes up to the pedestrian one earlier. And the second half of 34 can live on its own, improve the appearance of Surfside Drive, Ocean, and 17. Like that.
Well, and those have been discussed in the past, and it's actually, it's being engineered. I haven't really checked exactly where we're at with the engineering with Santee Cooper with, as far as the underground wiring going down. I think we're 6 blocks in each direction now on Ocean Boulevard. And it was discussed how good it would look for 17, but the cost was,
The cost was too high.
Yeah, Mayor Hillier at the
Goodness.
last meeting threw out a lot of multi-million-dollar figures about what
oh, it
underground
was,
wiring would cost.
oh, God.
It was astronomical.
Yeah.
A few blocks, 1 to 3 million was that what you were thinking?
Yeah, because the very first project we did on 14th, I mean, that was right at $500,000, which was cheap for a mile.
How long ago?
It all, yeah, it's all about the trunk lines and the sizes and how they connect. It's, you know, and Santee Cooper's matching it, but that fund, and you can borrow out up to 3 years on this. You can do a project 3 years ahead of time. So,
I
yeah.
believe he
that-
said
that's
we only have $700,000 in that fund. Well, that doesn't get us much of anything.
half of, yeah. From Hollywood to Ocean Boulevard, maybe. But
Probably not.
And maybe that's something we do like what we were doing with the sidewalks, where we say we want to do 3 small projects and start building out the steps so that eventually it gets done. Maybe it doesn't get done in the next 10 years, but it starts moving forward. So it's achievable in 50, 40.
yeah,
We don't have to do it all at once. I mean, it's not cost effective to do it that way, but it's achievable.
yeah, I mean, Ocean Boulevard made a lot of sense, even though it's a lot more expensive, just because you have a hurricane during the summertime. All those rental houses, all the restaurants are still powered up, and, you know, we did a lot in the residential to begin with, but, you know. All right. Economic Development Goal 3, partner with local business community to ensure that the core commercial areas in Surfside Beach are economically viable.
I've got a question here.
Yeah,
Where 3A starts talking about monitoring business turnover trends.
yeah.
Maybe the data's available, but for as many years as I can remember, every council meeting, Sabrina or somebody stands up there and says, guess what? We've got 12 new businesses this month. But what I've never been able to find out is, yeah, but how many closed this month? That is never reported. So I don't know if we got 4 new businesses, but 6 closed. And I'm not sure the business license people know unless they just don't renew their business license the following. Is there any current data? How do you know when a restaurant closes?
Yeah, that would be a finance question.
Yeah.
That's where we get that data from, is from business license. And you're right, if they don't renew, I can't think of any other way they would know that it's closed.
So if I close my restaurant in November, nobody in town hall knows it's closed until the following May when I don't renew my business license, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
Unless, yeah.
So we're not following that trend
No.
well unless she's got it and it's just not something they don't want to hear at council meetings.
Right, and I don't know that she doesn't, so I will find out.
Yeah, I
for
don't
you.
know.
Yeah, I'll ask Ms. King. She has
Facebook,
that answer, I don't.
yeah, Facebook seems to be the way to find out if something closed or not.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems most of them that close, a month later, there's a new name on the building and new ownership.
Thank you. So how do we count the ones that closed 3 times in 1 year?
Yeah, the new businesses, the old businesses that just closed.
Well,
Yeah.
and, you know, that
Okay.
goes to 3B, periodically survey existing businesses to determine special needs and to better understand local impediments to business growth. I think that's a good idea, getting the businesses to sit at the table with government is sometimes a challenge.
I wondered how that was going for you, but that's what we need.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Yeah, I don't know. We've been kind of doing that for
Yeah. I know
a
you
while. And
tried
just-
various events and nobody shows up, right?
Yeah, you know, and then we had events and then couldn't have them the next year for whatever reason, but we won't go into that. Yeah, surveying businesses, specific needs, review business fees, tax structures in nearby communities to determine whether or not Surfside Beach offers a competitive financial advantage to prospective and existing businesses based on analysis, identify specific revisions for consideration. We actually, I think it's been, Surfside Beach never had a declining tax rate. And it was, the business committee submitted that. It was actually approved, I think probably 4 or 5 years ago. But, well, you know, to me, what was disappointing was I talked to 2 council members and they had no clue what it was, but it passed in the budget.
There you go.
So, but I think we were having a problem with people going to the county, buying a county license, business license, because ours was $1.35, 100, and the county was $1.15. So I think those comparisons have been brought in line. So we are competitive with our local, with the county.
I'd like to make just a general statement at this point, if I may, about
Sure.
this whole Business 17 thing. We're doing a 10-year plan. And it would seem to me that just very early in this 10-year plan, the town ought to have settled down financially about the millions that have gone into the pier, and hopefully we'll level off and maybe we'll have some disposable income. And I think it would be time to start looking real hard at specifically what we can do that does cost money to fix up Business 17. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's tax credits. I think the facade grant of $5,000 is pathetic. $5,000 is not going to fix up any one of those buildings. Like, I could spend that on Venetian blinds for my house. But I'd like to see our comp plan turn a little bit, not away from the pier. The pier is going to be done and it's going to be great. And it's going to be expensive. But let's stop saying it would be nice to, if we could just get 17 to be beautiful and come up with something more than it would be nice. Specifically, throw money at it if we have the money.
Are you saying tax credits for businesses to put new facades or their facelifts, or is that what you're saying?
I'm not being specific because that's not my expertise, but I think it's time for the town to put their money where their mouth is on Business 17.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
That's already in place to us. What she was referring to was a facade grant that maxes out at $5,000.
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 matching grant.
That's not enough of an effort.
Just on 17? How about on Dogwood Drive?
Well, no, you can actually use it in any of the business district in Surfside Beach. I mean, on Surfside Drive.
C1 and C2.
Yeah. So.
And we have had requests to extend that to the entertainment district. That's up to council, but that has been mentioned last week.
But I think, but we always, to me, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea to move that money to the entertainment district, but that, for the most part, is renovated itself down there. I would rather see the money on 17.
Both change our focus.
Yeah. So.
Quick question about that one.
Yep.
Is that something they can apply for every year?
Yes.
So what if we do 25,000, but you can only apply for it once every 5 years?
Well, the idea was trying to, I think there's $50,000 budgeted, try to spread that money around as much as we could, maxing it at 5, so potentially having 10 businesses. If you did that, then you got 2.
And they can put 5 in themselves. So they get 5, they
So
put
you get 10.
5 or 10, and they have a nice
You
little
can do,
facade.
you can do, you know, you can't have Venetian blinds, but you can have,
what department approves that? Do we know? Is it zoning?
No, we actually have to review it to make sure it meets the overlay design requirements, but it goes to the town administrator.
Yeah, you can get that application online.
Well, I'm just curious if 20 applications were in. I mean, what determines how we issue that?
Well, we had talked about that as more of a kind of an on-site inspection. And we initially had talked about grading businesses A, B, and C. A being, they look pretty good, you know, B, man, they're all right. C is like, yeah, they really need the money. But we didn't really know how to do that in a fair assessment. So if you had 20 applications, to answer your question, it'd be more of an on-site inspection. Take a look at it, you know. All right, Scott, can't do yours this year, but please reapply next year.
That's been in place for, I mean, how many years now? Pretty long time, right?
I'm
Well,
just saying it's
that's-
not enough.
Right, it was in place, then the funding
Right.
ran out, and then I think it got resurrected, I guess, 6 years ago, something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, I think now we're trying to, the applications are now going to go out when the new business license go out to brick and mortar businesses. They will have a facade grant application in their envelope. So trying to make people aware that there is money was a challenge, you know, unless you went door to door. And so it was,
Do
I
we
would
know?
love for people to participate. I mean, it's there, take advantage of it.
I mean, do we have any, I mean, does the town have any kind of database that is just, this is contact information for the businesses?
I don't know how updated the emails or anything like that is. I'm
Wouldn't the fire marshal have something?
sure it's,
Well, we have a new fire marshal, so I'm not sure of that.
It seems to me that every business has to, it's somewhere in the new business process where they have to have a contact that they,
Oh,
on the
that's the
form.
police department. You're exactly right. The
Yeah,
police
police and
department
fire.
does that, yes.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
that would be a start at least.
Yeah, that's true.
like I say, we thought that mailing it out with the business license was a good start,
It is.
you know, because you know they're going to open the business license and probably pay it, and that would make them aware. You know, we were hoping that competition might drive this. You know, if a guy had a
Yeah.
flower shop and a guy next door to him redid his, and you can also get $2,000 for landscaping too. You know, if Joe redid the front of his, maybe Michael did redo his. Not sure why that hadn't taken off, but we're going to keep working and trying to get it in front of as many businesses as possible.
Do we know if Horry County has any facade grants or anything that they could take advantage of too, or nothing?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of.
They just enforce a pretty strict design overlay.
Absolutely, they
Because
do.
if you look to the right and the left of this town on Business 17, we look like crap compared to what the county's got.
Don't disagree.
Let's fix it.
Forgot where I was
We
at.
try.
We would maintain an
Yes.
inventory of all vacant commercial buildings in the community, consider development incentives for new business interested in relocating into an empty storefront. I think we got part of that information tonight with 70 commercial buildings available potentially. You know, incentives. You know, the declining tax rate is a good incentive, but, you know, if you're not doing $1 million, you know, when you get to $4 or $5 million income, that declining tax rate is a good thing, but we don't quite
Not
have
on that
a
scale.
bunch of those, yeah. Improve wayfinding along US 17. In the minor arterial roadways to more efficiently direct visitors to public parking, commercial business districts and to other points of interest. Ensure that wayfinding system is suitable for motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians. I didn't look wayfinding up. Is that like a GPS?
Sign, the signage.
It says brown signs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Signage.
it's signed, Conway has a great wayfinding, and actually Georgetown adopted Conway's. It's where if you go to Surfside Drive, it tells you there's what restaurants are down this way, or what you can find at the pier, or what you can find. Conway's is if people in South Carolina use theirs as an example. So if you'd like, I can bring you back some of those signs next council.
Yeah.
It makes planning commission meeting, let you look at it and let you see them.
I love Conway's.
Yeah, they do.
really
It's
great.
easy to find
It's easy to see.
anything,
Yep.
and that's the whole purpose.
Well, it cuts down on visual clutter too.
Yeah, it's one, and it's really nice
Yeah.
design. Some of them have the whole downtown map on it, so it could tell you where everything is. That may actually help some of the businesses feel more established as well, because it identifies them. But I'll bring it to you next meeting.
It'd be great to get one of those maps down at the pier location, so when all the tourists are going in, they can actually see everything in town and find something in town instead of out of town.
I think we should also put one at every public parking too. I mean,
Mhm.
we're talking.
Yeah.
Just a handful of dollars to help direct people to our E-District, to Surfside Drive, to the 17 corridor,
Okay.
or find their way back.
Yeah, investigate the creation of a tax increment financing district along Surfside Drive, Highway 17, Ocean Boulevard to finance long-term capital improvement needs along this corridor. I'm not sure there's too many vacant properties on any one of these streets that we want to be investing and buying in, unless we're talking about building a parking garage. Another parking lot.
Well, a lot of municipalities do the TIF districts in the areas that are, they're actually, we have a lot of them on 17. They're empty, they're dilapidated, and it's to bring it back to life. The taxes that are paid out of that district or that area that you choose, stay in that district, stay in that area and help improve that area. We talked about it years ago where the old Pavlik building was. It was so bad and run down, that was considered to, we had recommended TIF district, it didn't go anywhere. But it's a good idea. You actually have to, most of them that work the best, you actually have to get school district on board, which we're gonna have issues with because we don't have any schools in town. But all the taxes that are paid in that area stay in that area. So it is a good idea. It would be challenging to get in town, but it'd be worth the challenge if it could
Yeah, I
be
mean,
accomplished.
It talks about municipality identifies an economically stagnant or physically
Mhm.
declining area that determines private investment in the area is not likely to occur at a reasonable rate if no public investment is forthcoming.
Right.
There you go.
And we have a lot of that on 17.
We need to find ways to not just encourage the businesses to clean it up, but to help them or do it for them or whatever we have to do.
Open that dialogue. All right, economic development goal 4, foster growth in the tourism industry while preserving the local family-oriented neighborhood culture of Surfside Beach.
That's what you said.
Yeah, identify constraints to tourism growth, including parking, accommodations, and establish long-term facility upgrades to adequately meet tourism demands while preserving the character of the town.
This is one that probably makes sense to expand, like when we get like in the brass tacks on this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
get specific on inventory of our facilities, their age, upcoming expenses, count of parking spaces, partnering with planning committee, their path A, B, and C, what are they looking to do and how many incremental spots and the cost of each of those, right? So this
Yeah,
one here can
I
be
agree.
quick.
Says within the tourism industry, there are several distinct sectors such as cultural tourism, sports tourism, ecotourism. Explore new tourism opportunities for Surfside Beach and assess the cost / benefits of developing and promoting a new niche area. Encourage rental of Huckabee Park and Martin Park, advertise and promote usage. It's going to be hard for Huckabee since we lease it now.
Can I get on my
Martin
soapbox?
Park, that's, but parking down there is a challenge. It's a real challenge. And that, the field is not like your fields at Huckabee. That's more of a little league. It's, you're basically cut off at about 12 years old who will participate there.
I think with the communication initiative that the council has passed and working on with the website and everything else, would definitely promote this. So I don't know if that should be a high priority, but I think what we're going towards would probably do that for us.
Utilize resources from Coastal Carolina, Clay Britton Jr. Center for Resort Tourism to help Surfside Beach understand its position and potential in the state and regional tourism economy. I think we talked about that earlier as something we could reach out to them with.
Can I get on my soapbox again for a minute?
You sure can.
This whole business about accommodating tourism and encouraging tourism. Are we talking about the tourism that brings us money? And by that, I mean the people that rent a house for the week. Or are we talking about the overdevelopment around us that pours in day trippers? My concern about accommodating our local neighbors, and don't get me wrong, I got plenty of friends who live in those places, but I'm afraid we're going to get to the point where our beaches will be so overwhelmed by the day trippers outside the town that it will make our beaches unattractive for the people that come for a week and spend big money. If it starts looking like Coney Island because it's full of day trippers from the other side of the highway, these people are going to rent houses someplace else. So I think we need to be a little more specific about what it is we're trying to attract. We don't need to build 10 parking garages to accommodate the people that live on the other side of 17. We're just going to do ourselves in and wreck our beaches, and that's our cash cow. I have friends who own oceanfront houses. They're concerned about that. It is going to start to become so overcrowded and unattractive that people are going to, the money people are going to go elsewhere. With that, I'll just stop.
I think there's discussion concerning the out-of-town parking decals.
It should be.
I think that conversation is being had right now, whether to increase that fee immensely or just cut it out. So that.
When I worked the desk at town hall and I would say, sorry, sir, you live in Surfside Beach Club, it's going to cost you $200 for a parking sticker. He'd pull out his wallet and say, give me $4. That is not an issue with these people.
I think to touch on that too is maybe what we do when we actually get into looking at some maps is try and come up with a strategic plan for getting that parking near our businesses so that they can go eat at the establishments, but being a little more mindful of keeping it near the commercial projects, not near the residential corridor.
How about cutting off parking charges at 5 o'clock?
Yeah, I mean,
Problem solved. Nobody goes to the beach at 5 o'clock.
no, I don't think so. But I think that you could funnel the day trippers. No one's going to get out of their car and lug a cooler $6. I mean, some people
Exactly.
might,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But also do it in a way that makes sense to where we can kind of bring in some traffic and try and help out the businesses on the 17 corridor.
Yeah.
Consider participation in the South Carolina Tourism Alliance to gain greater exposure to resources available to develop and grow the town's tourism economy.
Do we do that now? Do we know who the South Carolina Tourism Alliance is?
I know who they are, but I don't know them. I'd have to find out from administration if they participate.
I think that the consultant we had last time just came up with a whole lot of filler. Yeah,
Yeah,
a whole lot of
I can ask
words.
her, Alex,
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
yeah. All right, Economic Development Goal 5, make the Surfside Beach Pier and the immediate surrounding area the centerpiece for future economic development.
We've done that.
Duh. Develop a long-range strategic plans focused specifically on the vision of for the Surfside Beach Pier and immediate surrounding area. Revise zoning standards when needed to accommodate desired and complementary uses to the pier. I think the E District pretty much takes care of that. Increase connectivity between Surfside Beach Pier and other community attractions and amenities such as proposed East Coast Greenway.
What other attractions?
For us to be not a part of the East Coast Greenway, we sure failed on that 10-year plan.
It's been mentioned more than once, hasn't it?
I think that's what you wanted.
It's a 20, 30-year plan.
Install interpretive signs within the Pier District to create a sense of place and to establish community identity for residents and visitors alike.
I mean, that should be part of the waste findings and economic, and I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think we should even have that.
Exactly, yeah, I mean, the way technology is now, signage is not necessary like it used to be, yeah. Exactly.
Is there an implementation of GPS information? You know, you're saying technology.
Yeah.
Signs, and I don't know this, but, you know, when I plug in a GPS, it somehow takes me places. How does that work here? Do we have anything to do with that?
No,
Okay.
no,
So
and I'm not sure how it
businesses
works.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's what we were, the Wayfinder. We'll have to do some more research on that. how
Yeah, and
we
I'll be
connect
glad to bring it
to-
back because
Yeah,
it's done amazing for Conway and Georgetown. So certainly
And-
something
And I
we
think,
should look at.
go ahead.
I think you kind of brushed over it a little bit while ago when you were saying that a lot of information is on those signs. So I think that I think information on signs is fantastic. I also think you can go too far with too many signs, and then we have sign pollution that makes our town look just as bad as having overhead power lines. So if we can have signs that have a lot of information in one place and can take out some other things, that, you know, that might be a
Yeah, and they're all uniform. They're
Mhm.
very small and they're for the pedestrian use. When you walk by, you see it and you know, you can see it in the car as well, but it's mainly for pedestrians. It's to encourage walkability.
Yeah, when I look at this, basically I see, I mean, we're repeating the same thing that was already in economic development. I think one whole plan in general for all signage would be the best route instead of in each one of our categories.
How many different ways can you say the same thing?
Yeah.
yeah. Economic Development Goal 6, ensure that environmental protection of the beachfront and other sensitive natural habitat areas is a priority in all economic development initiatives. Well, you go to 6A, promote stormwater best management practices such as low impact development. You know, and I think beach tree nourishment's probably a part of this. which we did in what, 2017?
We come up with any goals that are not sensitive to natural habitat, well, we will hear about it at the public hearing. Geese especially.
Ooh, we can't talk about the geese. Recognize that residential and commercial property values are contingent upon the environmental health and quality of local natural resources.
Okay.
Well, I think we've done a good job in the past, back when, we dredged all the lakes and we created more
Not all of them.
capacity. Well, all we could afford. Creating more capacity for stormwater. That's, we spent a little over $800,000 doing those projects, especially from 3rd South to 6th South and somewhere around 13th North. So yeah, that was 15 years ago. We did go up on taxes, 5 mills that actually paid for it. So I think we're very aware of, with the new guidelines that we have to follow as far as stormwater, I think we're almost
I think we're on it
mandated.
with the stormwater.
We're mandated to do those things. So
Yeah, and most of this goal is it's just lip service, really.
yeah. Incorporate educational interpretive signage related to local natural resources in key public areas such as a pier, the town lakes, and a beach access point.
Signs again.
More signage.
So is that a sign on the pier that points to the ocean?
Pretty much.
Tells you direction.
I have had people
need
on
that.
17 Business ask me which way was the ocean. Yeah. West.
Well, and I'll mention this, and it was actually, I'll go back during our business committee meeting 3 weeks ago. There was some representatives that have businesses down in the E district. We have been talking for several years about possibly renaming the E district, something more, I don't call it glamorous, but they've started a little business forum, and they're actually using Pier Village.
You say Surfside Square last month?
Surfside
I like
Square,
that one. That was,
yeah,
Well, I think we need to tell them there's a pier there.
but they came up with their marketing is the Pier Village.
A whole lot better than E District.
Yeah, well, I thought that was,
Yeah.
anything's better than,
I thought about Point Surfside.
yeah.
There's no
I mean,
point.
Or uniquely Surfside Pier. I think Garden City Pier, Surfside Pier, Market Commons. Yeah. Definitely keeping it simple, but I agree, E-District, I don't even know what that means.
so
Where-
yeah, I agree.
But
Our-
most people I don't think would know. E-District sounds like I'm a business and I'm
Yeah, let's
making
hand over your
commerce
wallet
in
district
the-
kind of
yeah,
thing
right.
to it. But I don't think, like, for this purpose, we don't need to solve the name. It would be, right, the activity would be marketing and branding around whatever the name is.
Yeah, I mean, if these guys, they're doing the marketing in this area, and if they like Pier Village, and that's how they're gonna market their product, and it's successful. Obviously, if they're gonna do some signage changes and stuff, they'll probably need to come to council and talk about it, but I thought it was pretty neat that they took the initiative to kind of rebrand themselves down there in that district, so.
Yeah, good for them.
This is a few businesses together that decided this?
Mhm.
Great.
They have kind of a little business alliance, I'll call them. I won't call their names, but they're all right down there together. So,
Yeah, I think we need to think of it not as what we who live here think it ought to be called. But if you're a first-time tourist sitting up in a hotel in Myrtle Beach, and it's, what are we gonna do tonight? it's got to be some kind of a name that makes sense. Nobody's going to want to go to the E district, but they don't know what it is. And I think anything with the word pier in it, at least tells them there's a pier in it.
Well, yeah, entertainment district, I mean, there could be.
Well, we don't have much
some guys
entertainment.
might get down there and be awful disappointed. But yeah, like I say, I like the Pier Village. We've actually done a lot tonight. If y'all want to keep going, we can. It's about 8 o'clock. We still got one more discussion item, so. just to
That'll be
throw-
quick. So something to consider, don't need to figure it out now, but we've got 7 more elements. But at this pace, it'll take us 7 more months of moving. And then there's some implementation, which isn't its own element, but it's another section. So at this rate, we'll be through the rest of the year. I know technically we have until December of 2023 because it was signed, but that almost feels like, that feels like government work. Like aiming towards the last possible second when we scramble and rushing. I don't need to solve it now, but maybe set up a separate 2-hour meeting to go through 3 more elements. Or something, just to start crunching through this stuff. So when the consultant comes, we could say, here's some general thoughts about what we had, some priorities, some less than priorities. Here's some new things that we bounced around, and maybe we can come in ahead of schedule.
Well, we can always schedule another meeting in between our monthly meetings. You know, so if we wanted to go every 2 weeks, say for a couple of months, speed up the process, we could certainly do that.
I'd be in favor of that.
I'd much rather do additional meetings than go beyond 2 hours.
That's it.
I get a little silly and my brain doesn't
Yeah,
work so well.
Probably
Would
do
be.
this at
Well,
local bars.
well, plus two, we would have been, if it hadn't have been for the chief and he did a great job.
That was
we'd have
45
been-
minutes,
We'd have been
yeah.
45 minutes ahead of time. So, but I'm glad he brought that to us. That was very important. So,
Yep.
all right, well, good. Well, we'll stop there
I'll
and we'll
publish
go.
some of our
Yeah.
notes.
And we'll go to C, you wanted to talk about a virtual packet?
Yeah, my understanding is that every committee and council gets, at every meeting, papers delivered to them. I just thought maybe do a sunsetting 3-month trial if whatever paperwork was involved was just emailed to us. I know there's some value to holding a piece of paper, but at the same time, I think for a couple of years, we were Tree City USA, we've got tree ordinance.
Except it's nice to have pieces of paper here that
Yep.
we can, otherwise we have to print it at our house. And sometimes printers ink dries after.
Well,
Yep, there's definitely a downside, but most have tablets or laptops, which we could bring. If we want to take a vote on it, it's an easy way to decide who's in favor and who's not. We move forward if we don't.
I mean, I also would not mind coming to pick mine up if that is something that is, you know, so they don't have to be delivered or if that,
Yeah, we just
Helps
mail it.
me.
I mean, it's not a,
All right, I'm the oldest one here. And what a computer geek told me a long time ago is when confronted with a 20-page document, trying to read it on the computer, my brain is not wired to, I saw that same sentence. You know, if it's hard copy, I can go back. I saw it back 3 pages on the top left, but I can't scroll back to that. So personally, I need to work with a paper copy anytime we're into heavy going because my brain was trained before there were computers. And you know, little stuff is no problem. I'm pretty good on a computer, but I can't deal with a 20-page piece of legislation that I've tried to edit on
yeah,
my
and it really
scrolling.
doesn't take any more time to do either one.
You print it, I'll
He was
pick it up.
trying to, yeah, he was trying, I think he was just trying to save the trees.
Yeah.
Well,
I
not
mean,
necessarily.
I think most of us are going to print it anyway, just because we like to go through it, take notes and.
Yeah, I want to print it on the
I
town's
do
ink.
anyway. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
I mean,
expensive.
is it just
All
something we can
myself.
elect and ask for it not to be sent to us and we just bring a digital copy?
Well, those that don't want it printed, I mean, like,
We
we'll
can
be glad to just send it to you
we
digitally and you can
certainly
bring
do
it
We
in. I
can
mean,
certainly do it both ways.
Yeah,
I
just
don't,
let me know.
well, create two processes now adds another level of difficulty. If it's right, it's,
What's another layer of government? there?
yeah,
Hey.
I'm trying to avoid that. Seems that most are not in favor, so not even, it's a moot point.
I mean, it's a good idea.
Good idea. I agree.
It's a good idea, just don't like it.
Just got a bunch of old school people up here.
My brain was not
Actually, I
wired
like
that way.
having it digitally too, though, so I can save that instead of saving the paper, but
I think I'm more apt to bring something from a prior meeting when I have it in paper too, whereas digitally, I might not go and go retrieve that file, you know? And I have gone back to previous minutes and, oh, all right, what did I say? You know, type deal.
And I brought paper today. too.
And we lose the history that way too. Change something for the third time and it's been erased, written over online that we don't know why we did it that way last week.
All right. Sorry, Alex.
I'll recover.
Get over it.
All right, I will open it up to public comments. Everybody good? Tired? Commission comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
great meeting. I think Chief Hoffman and everything that went on, great meeting. It has taken us a while to get through this, but I really appreciate Alex condensing this down to the most solid. I think this was a lot better than going through that comprehensive plan. So give us a lot more better ideas. So appreciate that.
I second that.
I do too, and I do appreciate Chief Hoffman's passion and that he came here to tell us what his thoughts were and why. I think that was important for us to hear. And thanks for you guys for being here too. It's kind of nice to see the interest, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. That was, glad you added that. I'm glad you guys are working together on a solution. Yeah, Chief Hoffman is very passionate about his job. Does, but I think a wonderful job. So glad to have him. Appreciate all the input. I second that. That's a lot more reading for me, but that's okay. I don't mind. But it's concise and like I say, with you updating this, and I appreciate that too. So, if there's not any other comments, I will
I
make a
do just,
motion for adjourn.
I have one question. We talked about meeting more times, meeting in between our next meeting, and do you want to tell us what exactly we want to go over for the next meeting?
What was next? So you want your homework assignment, is
do.
what you're
Is
telling
it
me.
cultural next?
Okay.
Natural resources.
Natural resources.
Yeah, natural resource element, which looks to be about, it looks to be about 55 bullet points. So I would say that would be, and then maybe after the next meeting, we'll maybe discuss every other week or just kind of see where we're at and go from there, if that's okay with everybody. Good.
Yep.
All right.
I had a question. I had a
Yes,
question
sir.
for Sabrina. Sorry.
Okay.
So just for the public input, is that going to be included in our packet for what we get back from social media? I'm assuming for our next council meeting, if we're going to vote on that CARE Act.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Anything, I'm going to ask the public information officer to put it on Facebook, and any comments I'll add to the packets.
Okay, is there any way we can get that before that? Because I know you all send that out the Friday before, but I would like to be able to kind of put that in mind frame and try to reach out to somebody or something to see what their input.
Yeah, and do you follow the town's Facebook
do.
page? Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we can print it out weekly if you'd like, and I can email it to everyone. That's up to you.
Sabrina, can you ask him to at least try to distinguish between residents and non-residents? Facebook pages draw an
Oh,
awful
yeah,
lot of
that's true.
people who don't
Yeah.
even live here.
Yeah.
You might as well give everybody in Deerfield to vote if you're gonna just put it on Facebook.
That's true.
I don't know. I don't think we've got a good handle on who lives here.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's an open forum, of course, but I mean, there is ways to look and see, like, if their information does say town of Surfside or lives in Surfside Beach. And I understand it may not be in the town in general, but it gives you a good idea. So,
Well, the key is getting participation.
Right.
On Facebook.
Yeah, we're lacking that.
Yeah, and even if it does come from Facebook or if it comes from emails, good with that.
my concern on it is, I mean, we're here voting or planning to vote on this, and we have no input from the residents at all. So, I mean, even putting it on Facebook in general will invite them out to our planning mission to give us some comments. Would be a great thing. So,
Right.
I agree.
I know they do that in the town council meetings, but they never share most of the committee meetings on the town website. So I think we can get more involvement.
We could always cross-check the Facebook posts with GIS for home ownership or businesses and stuff like that too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we can kind of narrow that down.
Homeownership helps, but if you get, you don't know if somebody's renting.
Well, just that way, no one's
Yeah, if
posting their
they're
personal
renting, you can't
information on
find them
their
anyway.
posts.
You're right.
Yeah. So, okay,
Good.
I'm done. We can go home. Wait.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
No opposed?
Actually, that was no opposed.
Back to that one.
Participants.